All right. Quick little double bicep flex to get us going. You like that? All right. We're going to try to do a little face cam today. It's kind of a weird angle, but it'll just have to do until I can figure something else out. This is me. We're back today. I'm going to be doing a list of ranked fighters in the UFC that I want to see fight each other. Like, we're going to do the best matches. Like, let's just start this off by saying, dude, I'm the coldest matchmaker on YouTube. Even though I only have 9 subscribers, I don't care. I'm the coldest matchmaker. And these are some of the best fights that can be made with the ranked fighters that are currently in the UFC, removed from matches with the champion. So I'm not going to be involving the champion in any of these fights. I may mention them, but they're not going to be match made in these contender fights. These are just the most entertaining bouts that I can think of between active contenders in the rankings right now. So let's start with flyweight. We're gonna go Tatsuro Taira versus Alejandro Pantoja. I just said I wasn't gonna mention champions, so I lied about that. I'm walking it back immediately. Tatsuro Taira should fight Alejandro Pantoja. If you look through the flyweight rankings, whenever I say there is literally no depth in that division, there is zero depth in that division, and we need fighters who can challenge the champion because Pantoja looks unbeatable pretty much right now. So I think the fighter with the best run of doing that is Tatsuro Taira. He's a fresh style that we haven't seen before. He's somehow managing to win these fights in really weird ways. So I feel like if he got in there with Alejandro Pantoja would be fighting like he's in a Jet Li Kung Fu movie like he normally does, and then Tatsuro Taira will probably just do something weird, and then we just get an interesting fight. I can't even predict it, so I want to see that happen. Tatsuro Taira first has to beat Brandon Royval, which if he does, then I'm sold on the idea of him becoming champion. That's another good fight, but it's already booked, so happy birthday to me. Steve Erceg versus Alex Perez. Steve Erceg, man. All my Steve Erceg fans, man, we sighed a heavy breath. We sighed a heavy sigh on the day where he got his chin spun around like he got his chin spun around like the wheels on the bus. He got his chin spun like the wheels on the bus by Kai Kara France, and that made me cry. And it was even on the same card where Gamrot lost a fight, and Gamrot was my favorite fighter. I still like him a lot, but he wasn't able to rob against Dan Hooker. Anyways, the thing that made me the most sad was the fact that Steve Erceg got knocked out. That really broke my heart. I want to see him fight Alex Perez. Alex Perez just lost to Tatsuro Taira. It was like he blew his knee out because he was climbing him like a tree. It was really weird. So whenever he heals, the cursed fighter Alex Perez, the pullout merchant, the canceled bout merchant, I want to see him fight Steven Erceg, Steve Carell, get him in the cage with Michael Scott immediately. Yeah, so that's flyweight. Let's go on to bantamweight. I don't want to talk about those guys anymore. Umar versus either Peter Yan, or Davison Figueiredo. That fight would be fireworks. Either one of those. Umar, I feel like they could very well give him the next title shot based off of the fact that he beat Sandhagen the way that he did, but I'd like to see him fight another high-ranked contender just because I just think it would be an interesting fight. Him versus O'Malley would be cool too, but there's still a lot of great fights for him as well. Like Yan or Figgy. Also, Merab, I think that he's about to get glassed by Sean O'Malley, so after that happens, he could fight Umar as well. I'm not sure what sense that would really make as far as title implications, because if Merab did win, he'd be right back in the title picture. And I'm not sure that they'd just give him a shot like that. Yeah, I would say Umar versus Yan or Figueiredo. Figueiredo is really the match that I'm super interested in, because bantamweight Figgy is crazy. One thing that we know for a certain is that if you come from a lower weight class to a higher weight class, there's definitely a skill difference there, and all of those weight differences, and it is represented in your ability to perform at a high level at this higher weight class. We see it all the time with featherweights going up to lightweight. Sometimes guys will be big-bodied middleweights like Joaquin Buckley, and all they need to do is just go down to a lighter weight class where their technical skill can shine through, and then they're a lot more successful than they are in the heavier one. So, yeah, Figgy is a case of that as well. Coming up from flyweight to bantamweight, he's schooling. Like, I can't believe he did what he did to Rob Font. He beat Chito Vera decisively, and Cody Garbrandt as well. And those are all like great fighters that he's beaten. So I want to see him continue to get tested against great fighters. Umar looks like that. Jan definitely is that. So I want to see them all fight each other, honestly. Like, that's just, I want to see them all fight each other, to be honest. Umar, Jan, and Figgy, we just have a 3-way Mexican standoff in the octagon, or just matchmake any of them. Also, I'm interested in the resurgence of Jose Aldo at bantamweight too, coming down from featherweight. We kind of saw his limits in fighting Merab Dvalishvili, which sucks because, like, he did get, like, he got schooled and it was sad. But, I mean, dude, wins over, like, Chito Vera in the rankings. Aldo should fight Henry Cejudo or Dominic Cruz. We need to get him in fights with other legends who are active in the rankings at bantamweight. Because, I mean, these are literally fights that you would make on, like, UFC 5, dude, so we want to see it. I want to see it. So, Aldo versus Cejudo or Cruz, that's bantamweight. Let's move on to featherweight. I want to preface this, my bad, featherweight. I want to preface this by saying that I'm so excited for Brian Ortega versus Diego Lopez in featherweight. This is literally probably the best fight that they could make, and it's scheduled. I'm kind of sad that we didn't get to see it, but I'm very happy about the fact that I got to see Diego Lopez fight Dan Ige on that short notice fight. So we kind of saw, like, more of his abilities, and I'm very confident that Brian Ortega can win that fight if he doesn't get knocked out. And that's the big, like, what if. But he's ego maxing. We all know, like, he went into the cave after 50 years and he chose not to perish. So he smashed his beak and he plucked all his feathers off. And now he's gonna go and he's gonna rebirth. I'm gonna have a rebirth. I just broke up with my girlfriend. I'm gonna rebirth. That's literally what he's gonna do against Diego Lopez. It's just part of that same narrative, and it's gonna go all the way up into a title fight. Because Ilia Topuria is going to fight Brian Ortega if he wins this fight after he beats Max Holloway. I talked about this before in the video that I made about my predicted champions for 2025. I may make a timestamp there. I probably won't for, like, or a card or whatever. But yes, Brian Ortega versus Diego Lopez, super compelling fight. I'm interested in seeing Lerone Murphy fight Dan Ige. That's another scheduled fight. But the thing that I want to see out of that matchup, moving up the rankings, I want to see the winner of that fight Arnold Allen, because Arnold Allen is another one of my favorite featherweights, and he's been on a solid run lately, and I've really been enjoying watching his fights, and I think that potential matchups with Lerone Murphy or Dan Ige would be cool for Arnold Allen. So would love to see it, would really love to see it. Let's go to lightweight now and talk about someone who's just coming off of a win, like, in the recent weeks, on the same card as Adesanya fought as well. I want to see Dan Hooker fight Justin Gaethje, dude. That'd be a sweet fight. They have a lot of shared opponents as well, mainly Dustin Poirier. They both, well, Gaethje, no, Gaethje knocked out Poirier. Gaethje knocked out Poirier with the head kick. That's so funny to think about, dude. Anyways, Hooker should fight Gaethje. Gaethje is probably somewhere cold right now, or, like, on Frieza's spaceship in, like, the Saiyan, like, healing cryopod, or, like, the water pod with the mask on his face, and he's probably been there since fighting Max Holloway. But whenever he gets out and gets his little Zenkai boost or whatever, let's have him fight Dan Hooker. And that's a sick fight, dude. Ex-BMF champion, and honestly, Dan Hooker he's been showing out lately. I like Gamrot, so I picked him to win that fight, and I was salty whenever Dan Hooker did win, but, like, he did win, so I tip my hat. Moving on, I think that Gamrot, who I was just mentioning, should get a bounce back fight, and that should be against the winner of BSD and Renato Moicano. Yeah, I think that's a great fight. It's a smashing fight. I think that it'd probably be Benoit Saint-Denis, so let's give him to Gamrot and see what that fight produces. I think that it would be cool. Gamrot's striking looked the same way that it did against Hooker. He may get knocked out by Benoit Saint-Denis if he's looking even more sharp than he did in his last fight without the staph infection this time around. So we'll see how it goes. I'm excited to watch Benoit Saint-Denis fight healthy, because last time we watched him fight and he wasn't, and he got knocked out brutally. So have him fight Gamrot if he wins. Moicano wins. I'm not sure if that fight's already happened. I don't think it has. Have them fight. And then the last matchup in lightweight, Michael Chandler versus Fiziev. Fiziev, that would be a cool fight. Fiziev has been just kind of chilling lately. I think he might be off injury, if I'm like remembering correctly. I think his last fight was against Gamrot, maybe, and he had hurt his leg in that fight, and so he's just been chilling, sidelined the same way that Michael Chandler has sidelined himself, waiting for this Conor McGregor fight that is literally never going to happen. He needs to move on. So whenever he wakes up and decides to face the music, book him against Fiziev or another featherweight who's been calling him out online. I mean, I know that we're talking about ranked contenders for certain divisions, but I'm very interested in this fight. Josh Emmett versus Michael Chandler. That would be a cool matchup, and I think that would produce a sick fight for fans. I would really enjoy watching it. I think that someone goes to sleep there, honestly, because they're both just gonna stand in the center of the octagon and throw overhands at each other, or they're gonna wrestle and there might be cool scrambles. I would be interested in watching it. Michael Chandler just needs to get back out there and compete against someone, dude, instead of just waiting for Conor McGregor, because that's not gonna happen. I don't think it's gonna happen. And honestly, dude, as we're waiting more and more, nobody really cares. I can speak for a lot of people in saying that, like, this return of Conor McGregor, we'd all care to see it, but we're not like going to bed at night like thinking about it before we drift off into sleep. It's not like that. So Michael Chandler needs to do something. Unless I'm sure he's still getting money, bro. I'm not even like pocket watching like that, but like I want him to like put on interesting fights, because that's what he does. So whenever he decides that it's time again, Fiziev or Josh Emmett. Let's move on to welterweight, which is my favorite division in the UFC. I want to talk about JDM versus Shavkat. They're probably going to give Shavkat Bilal Muhammad, and like that sucks, because I really like Bilal Muhammad, and Shavkat might just beat Bilal Muhammad, you know, and the striking, the grappling, the wrestling. He's going to beat him everywhere. The striking, the grappling, the wrestling. Bilal Muhammad is literally, he's going to have a hard time with Shavkat, and he probably loses that fight, which sucks. But if he wins, then like we're lit, and that means he's going to fight JDM. But if they did want to make like the coldest contender matchup right now, it's JDM versus Shavkat, dude. It's literally Jack Della Maddalena versus Shavkat. That's the coolest fight that this division can produce right now on paper, and I feel like if we actually saw it, it would be the coolest fight. So that's the one that I want to see the most. I'm not sure if the stars will align before one of them gets the belt, but I want to see it happen eventually. So that's what I would have to say right now. Another fight, Carlos Prates versus... We could go two ways with this. He was chatting at MVP online and said that he was trying to get a fight with him, and was telling Michael Venom Page to just sign the contract and they could fight. But I kind of want to see him fight Michael Morales. I think that would be another good fight. Michael Morales is just off of a fight with Neil Magny. He's another slick striker, Brazilian. Very good kickboxing. Ground game is looking pretty solid as well. I think that Carlos Prates could probably win the fight against Michael Morales in a stand-up battle a bit easier than he could against MVP. But I mean, dude, I feel like those would both be like fireworks fights. So let's get Carlos Prates against like some like real good contenders, move him up the rankings, because I think that he is good. He's a good fighter and he wants to stay active, so keep him going. This is another fight that's like, okay, do you guys remember that 2 weeks where both Ian Machado Gary, and Colby Covington were making online content back and forth at each other, trying to get a fight going and build hype for a fight, and then nothing happened? They're talking about Colby Covington versus Dustin Poirier at UFC 309, and it's like, dude, fight Ian Gary. Fight Ian Gary. We all want to see you fight Ian Gary. You made those videos calling Ian Gary out. You gave him the stipulations. You told his like girlfriend that she needs to come in the video and say something about it. Like the fight, and it's not even gonna happen. So you need to fight Ian Gary, Colby Covington. And that's the fight I want to see. That's a grudge match, dude. I want to see that fight. The press conference. Could you imagine the press conference with Colby Covington and Ian Gary? That would literally be that would feed families, dude. Like the content that I could make on that, it would be so great. So yes, Covington versus Gary. That's gonna conclude welterweight. Let's go up to 185, which honestly, granted the current state of the like UFC, is probably the most interesting division right now, even though it has really like canned fighters in it. Void the champion and a few other dudes. 185 is where it's at right now, honestly. Like Adesanya just lost again in a title fight, dude. Like what the heck? This division is crazy. So I kind of have a lot of picks for this and a lot of fights to break down. So let's get right into it. Caio Borralho versus the winner of Brendan Allen and Nasruddin Imavov. Brendan Allen and Nasruddin Imavov are going to fight very soon. I think that the winner of that fight should fight Caio Borralho. Caio Borralho is number 5 in the rankings right now, and he should fight 1 or 2 more times before he gets the belt. I don't think that giving him like a title fight right now, or even a title eliminator, would really make sense. Granted, like, I mean, it might, because it's literally like him and who else. So like Whitaker is fighting Chimaev. This is really like the only other fighter who they could be tracking towards the belt is Caio Borralho. So have him fight the winner of Brendan Allen or Nasruddin Imavov. Nasruddin Imavov beats Brendan Allen, which I don't think is going to happen. I feel like Brendan Allen robs that win off of Nasruddin. I think that Brendan Allen is going to, if he beats Caio Borralho, then he's the guy who's going up towards the title as well. This is perfect. So Caio Borralho versus the winner of that Brendan Allen versus Nasruddin Imavov. Great fight. Anthony Hernandez versus Roman Kopylov. These are both of our favorite middleweight prospects. Have them fight each other. That is just a sick fight. I could see Anthony Hernandez wrestling Roman Kopylov to a decision win. I could see Roman Kopylov maybe catching Anthony Hernandez like Kevin Holland did, and then getting the finish there in that fight. Even though Anthony Hernandez is a transformed fighter and he looks really good. So we'll see what he ends up doing as far as like fight announcements go, but that's a fight that I'd like to see him versus Roman Kopylov. Paulo Costa versus Chris Curtis. Let's get Paulo Costa in a fight that he can actually freaking win, because he does not win fights. Even though he looks like a bronze statue, he hits like a Hello Kitty action figure and does no damage. So let's get him in there with Chris Curtis. If Chris Curtis exposes Paulo Costa, God help us all for once thinking that this guy was actually Borrachinha the Eraser, dude. Secret Juice is a myth if he loses to Chris Curtis. Let him fight that guy, I guess. Cannonier versus the winner. I like Jared Cannonier. I like him a lot. So let's have him fight. This would be a sweet fight. The winner of Kevin Holland versus Roman Dolidze. If either of those fighters win, say Roman Dolidze beats Kevin Holland, which I don't think will happen because his striking is really fart butt, and I think that Kevin Holland could probably knock out Roman Dolidze. That's the good ending, so that's what I'm going for. Let's say Roman Dolidze wins that fight. Jared Cannonier is probably going to beat Roman Dolidze. He can make it a striking fight, and he could probably catch him and hurt him real bad. I can see him hurting like Roman Dolidze super badly. So that's an interesting fight. And if Kevin Holland fights Jared Cannonier, then that's just going to be, I think it's going to be a stand-up war. And then Kevin Holland could win as well. So that's an interesting matchup to make. Cannonier versus the winner of that fight between Kevin Holland versus Roman Dolidze. We're going to go right next into Bo Nickel versus Jack Hermanson. That's a great fight. 2 power grapplers. Bo Nickel is working out his striking, but does have knockout wins. Probably does have more power than Jack Hermanson as well. But we've seen Jack Hermanson outstrike a fair good number of contenders who we thought had good boxing or in good striking. Joe Pyfer, Chris Curtis even. Like, these fighters, we rated them. We really did. And like their boxing and their stand-up, and they were just getting Hermanson, they were getting jokered. He was just hitting him with jonker methods. and that was like getting him to wins. So if Bo Nickel doesn't come correct with his striking, he'll get schooled by Jack Hermanson. But I think that they would neutralize each other on the ground, so that's why I want to see this fight. And then the last matchup that I want to see at 185, ooh, I might have cooked with this one, fellas. Michelle Pereira versus Shara Bullet. That's a good fight, dude. The Pirate versus the guy who does backflips in the middle of the octagon. Tell me this wouldn't be a good fight, bro. Tell me that the kicks and the volume of kicks being thrown in this fight wouldn't be insane, and that this could produce a finish. Maybe it would be like a point fight where they're just both throwing really flashy techniques, but still, dude, that would be fun to watch. Them just doing like capoeira together, like in the middle of the freaking octagon. That would be cool. So make that fight, Michelle Pereira versus Shara Bullet. There's ranked implications there as well. It just sucks that it would only have to happen in like the UAE, because that's where he can fight. So if they can swing it, let's make it happen. Let's go right into light heavyweight now. We're gonna talk about Carlos Ulberg versus Nikita Krylov. I think that's a good fight. Nikita Krylov has been beating up some of my favorite legends of the game for a while now. Retiring some of my favorite old light heavyweights and winning other fights in between. And the win streak he's on right now isn't bad. He's like a kind of uninteresting fighter, and the fact like he hasn't really been anywhere is another thing. That doesn't really like bother people either. Like he's been on he's been on vacation somewhere, dude. This man has been hiding out in a cave somewhere, like just drawing on the walls with his fingers. But I want to see him come back and fight Carlos Ulberg. That'd be a good fight. Next, we're gonna go with Johnny Walker versus the real Anthony Smith, Bogdan Guskov. This is a good fight. I think that Johnny Walker probably gets knocked out. Spoiler alert, Johnny Walker gets knocked out in this fight. But dude, tell me it wouldn't be interesting. And if you saw like that slaphead, orc-looking guy who resembles Anthony Smith knock him out, you wouldn't be hype. Volkan literally just did it, and I was getting turned in front of my TV. Every single time Johnny Walker gets knocked out, it's hype, dude. So I want to see it continuously happen until he retires from the sport. Salute to you for being a good sport about getting punched in your head really hard. And I can't wait until you get punched in your head again. And I have no personal vendetta against you, Johnny Walker. I just think it's funny when you go to sleep. Next, Volkan Ozdemir versus either Jan Blachowicz or Yuri Prohaska. I think it's time that we give him a high-profile fight because he's winning and he's putting on good performances as well. Volkan Ozdemir is Himothy, and I think that maybe if Jan comes back and looks like garbage, Volkan could get a win off of him. And post Pereira damage, Yuri is a very winnable fight for him again in like a rematch, dude. I know that they already fought, but dude, Volkan Ozdemir has a lot of momentum going this way, and Yuri's is kind of looking like this right now. So have them maybe cross paths again. Jan Blachowicz versus Volkan Ozdemir is a sick fight though, so I want to see either of those dudes like get that shot to fight Volkan, because he's like the one. He's the one right now. He's the chosen one. So let's have that happen. And then the final matchup that I want to see is what should have been instead of the title fight that's going on right now. It should be Magomed versus Alex Pereira right now. And then it should be Jamal Hill versus Khalil Roundtree. Remember whenever that fight was booked for that one card a couple months ago, and then like that fight fell through, and then that fight fell through, that was supposed to happen? We ended up getting like Roman Dolidze versus Anthony Smith, dude. And then people just forgot about Jamal Hill versus Khalil Roundtree, and that's what should have been. So I hope that Good Reason can return to the matchmaking after Khalil Roundtree gets slept by Alex Pereira, and they can end up having their go, because I want to see that. That's what I want to see. The next thing, we're going to go... Alright, so we're about to go in heavyweight now. Heavyweight is another interesting division. It's interesting because of the potential of what it can be. It has the potential to be like a really great division, but there's just a couple of things that aren't happening that are like kind of like killing the vibe a little bit. The fact that John Jones won't fight, period, and won't fight Tom Aspinall is really killing the vibe. And also the fact that the fact that like Cyril Gane isn't fighting either, that's also really killing the vibe for me as well. So I'm not sure if I'll even be matchmaking Cyril Gane, because if he comes back, they're probably just gonna give him a title shot against Tom Aspinall for like the vacant title, to unify the vacant title once Stipe and John Jones are both gone. So that's pretty uninteresting. But aside from that, there are good matchups to be made, so I'll get into those. Heavyweight is cool. Derek Lewis versus Mick Parkin. Mick Parkin is my favorite fat heavyweight in the UFC. He trains with Tom Aspinall. He's a British boy. He's got a big old gut, but he's got very technical skill, very crisp boxing, and good grappling knowledge, and understands positions very well. So I think he could go far in the rankings, beating up other fat guys. I think he's better than Marcin Tybura. Marcin Tybura, a great fighter. I'd love to fight him. And I almost match made him versus Marcin Tybura. I think that he'd win that fight. But another interesting fight is like how he deal with like Derek Lewis, because I feel like he could just grapple him, and I feel like that's a good that's a good showing. Honestly, Jailton Almeida was able to do it. Other fighters like Daniel Cormier were able to do it as well. If you can grapple a nuclear threat, you have to respect that, even if it is like an uninteresting performance. But I feel like Mick Parkin could get one up off of Derek Lewis on the feet too, in the striking department, because I just believe in him that much. So Mick Parkin versus Derek Lewis, let's get it done. Mick Parkin might even be better than the GOAT Parker Porter, honestly, with the way he's looking lately. So let's see that. Tai Tuivasa versus Waldo Cortez Acosta. Waldo Cortez Acosta is the he's the Robelis de Spain buster. He beat Robelis de Spain whenever we thought that guy was Mega Man or Godzilla and was gonna just Hulk the entire division, and he just got made to look really stupid by Waldo Cortez Acosta. So let's get him in a fight with Tai Tuivasa. Tai Tuivasa's career is on a recession right now, and Waldo Cortez Acosta has a bit of momentum. I think that he could take the ranking off of Tai Tuivasa, and the division progresses, and that's what I want to see happen. Another fight is going to be what should be happening. I know I wasn't going to mention champions in this video, but I'm going back on that again. Tom Aspinall needs to fight John Jones. John Jones is ducking Tom Aspinall. And it's like, we all know it. We go to bed, we know it. We wake up and we're like, yep, Tom Aspinall is the interim champion because John Jones won't fight him. And that, honestly, it makes me kind of salt, bro. And these are two guys, they're doing their own thing. And Tom Aspinall is probably just going to keep on winning against whoever they give him outside of this fight. But that's what we all really want to see. So I don't think we're going to get online and bully John Jones into fighting Tom Aspinall. I don't think it's going to work like that. But it might. And, if it does, then, I don't think it's worth a try either. But I really don't know how to make this fight happen. I'm not sure, me as an individual, obviously, I am not having much bearing out of this. But if John Jones is really motivated to fight Stipe and retire, and he's not going to fight anyone else other than Stipe, then how do you make this fight happen? And how do you prove that Tom Aspinall is the best if you can't fight John Jones? So that's where the giant cliffhanger is. And what's frustrating about this is that we just will never know, I guess. So moving on. Another thing that we may never know about. This should be the fight that should have been made. It should have been Tom Aspinall versus John Jones and Curtis Blades versus Stipe Miocic. That would have been the healthiest thing for this division. And that could have been Stipe's retirement fight as well against Curtis Blades. He gives up his ranking to the young, sprawling up-and-comer. And then there would have been a bit more, salt on this match with Tom Aspinall and Curtis Blades, because we would have been like, you look pretty good against Stipe Miocic, the 40-year-old fireman. But, anyone could look good against him. That's why it's so unimpressive that John Jones wants to come back and fight Stipe, dude. Stiopich. So, yeah, that's it. It's kind of a bummer that we have to end off on heavyweight, because, the division is... That division's kind of cooked right now, dude. But once a certain few things happen, maybe, a couple retirements, maybe, 2 more fights, I think we'll be back in good shape for heavyweight. But those are all of the ranked contenders that I want to see fight each other. Maybe a couple of champions. scattered in there. I may have like fibbed a little bit, but yeah, that's all the fights that I want to see. I think these are great fights. So hopefully we can get announcements on Big Marcel Instagram page. That's who I always see like the fights being posted through, like the new announcements of some of these matchups that I've made. I think that I did a pretty good job. I thought pretty hard about this. So let me know if there's any matchups that you think that I've missed. Tell me if you think that the face cam is cool. I'm gonna try to make this work. And thank you guys for supporting the channel. If you made it this far, I appreciate it a lot. I love MMA, like I always talk about, and I love making this style of content. So please like, comment, and subscribe. All that stuff for the algorithm. And I will catch you fellas in the next one.